Are live in three, two, one. Boom. All right. What is up, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with some of my very dear friends today as we jump into a fun segment today we are calling the seven figure hot seat. If you don't know everybody on, you're going to get a deep dive into a lot of these folks' businesses as we have some fun. On this call, we have very successful land investors that have been doing this for years, tons of experience in business, real estate, and several other pieces in the world before we all got here together. And so today we're going to learn a little bit about everybody's businesses. We're going to dive into real problems, and you're going to see a framework for how business owners actually do some problem solving together. So right now I'm grabbing some links here. First, I want to give a great shout out to my good friend Dave Denniston, who's on here today. If you don't know, this is the format in a little bit of a bigger setting in a physical room that we're going to be doing this event later this year called the Land Unconference. He'll tell us more about it towards the end. But Dave, do you want to give us just a brief background on the Unconference, and then I'll talk about you and your experience a little bit more?
Yes. Well, Ajay, thank you so much for having me. It means a lot, to be able to have your support and friendship and you be a moderator. This will be the third unconference, not including Puerto Rico, that you've
True.
done with me. Four, I guess, if we include Puerto Rico as part of that. So it's been a journey. We're really wanting to bring people together from all different walks of life. We want to get people that are potentially came from Jack Bosch or Land Academy or Justin Sleva or Sumner Healy or wherever, and without any sort of conflict of interest, just have people work on their businesses. I don't know about you, but the best part for me has always been talking to other land investors when I go to events. It's great when we get opportunities to learn new things, whether it's subdividing or messy title or whatever. But after a while, I get kind of bored. Don't you, Ajay? Just sitting around for a while.
100%, 100%. And honestly, this business can get so lonely sometimes too, right? I think land has grown in popularity over the past couple of years, but transparently, it is still something where it's pretty hard to find people in your local market, especially if you're like our good friend Colin Murphy here with his very Irish name, but lives in Spain. He lives in Madrid.
Mhm.
Not a ton of land investors that I'm aware of in Madrid. And so, all that to say, it can get really lonely, and it becomes important that we spend time with people that have the same problems that we do, right? Which is really what the unconference is so driven about. And if you guys don't know Dave, I mean, he's awesome because it's like no sales pitches, he's not pushing any six-figure coaching program, and like, look, I've sold masterminds, I sell coaching, like I get it, but man, it's really just an event that's focused on the investor. I think that's what's so cool about the unconference and has kept me coming back and loving it, man. So all that to say, Dave, it's been really fun getting to do this. We've got over a handful live with us so far, and we're getting out comms right now. If you are here live with us, if you would just let us know in the Facebook chat too, I'd love to know who's here with us today. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and give some brief backgrounds here. With Dave, obviously, we have the unconference as a background. Dave has done a great job in the past, almost what, 10 years in land? You started in 2016?
2017. Yeah,
17.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Going on 10.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. It's 2025 right now. And we have seen tons of changes in the land business in that time, even more so. I joined in 2020, and I feel like it is a completely different model than it was back then. So it's been cool chatting with you over the years to see how it's going. But Dave's grown from a part-time solopreneur to still somehow part-time, but he's got a staff of 20 and he's running a massive operation, and he's got a huge note portfolio, if you don't know. So it's been fun watching you do flips, wholesale, subdivide, and new strategies as you've learned and evolved and grown in the past year too. Anything you want to add to your background before we get kicked off with a couple of things?
I guess my background, I would say, so as you mentioned, I have a couple different businesses. So I do financial planning, I got the land stuff, we're doing this conference thing. And for me, leadership is important. So a lot of runs through kind of a traveling vein throughout for me is, hey, how do we lead people? How do we hire people? I'm on the journey of doing all this myself. So I'm still just like yourself on closing. I'm really trying to dig into how can I lead people well? What does that look like in running the organization? And sharing those lessons. And so that's why I love running these things, is to continue to share and learn myself. So no matter how long I've been in this business, there's always something to learn. And so I'm really excited to have these two guys. We got Alex, we got Colin with us, so we can learn together. I'm sure there's stuff they know that would help me, and there's stuff that I know that might help them, and vice versa, with all around. So that's what it's all about: helping one another, lifting one another up, being supportive, getting breakthroughs, all that good stuff.
Amen, man. Amen. So we got over a dozen here live with us right now, which is super fun. A couple of names you might know: Todd Fisher, what's up? Cameron Schultz, hello, my friend. Yasir Lillingston, we know him well. Ori, what's going on, man? And a few more. So super fun. All right, guys, we're going to start getting into some meat here in a second. The last thing I want to do before we dive in too deep is Alex and Colin, if you guys would just give real brief backgrounds on who you are and why you're here, and we'll start going and talking through some stuff. I promise this is going to be a lot of fun today, guys.
Sure. I'll kick it off then if you want. Great to be here. Colin Murphy, originally from Ireland, but I've been living in Spain for 15 of the last 20 years. The other 5 were in Tampa, Florida. I've been investing in Florida real estate since 2008, and I was in international real estate for another 5 or 6 years before that. And I was a fix and flipper for a long time, for about 10 years. So I flipped, well over 350 houses, well over $100 million worth of single family homes, most of those in the Tampa Bay area. But 4 years ago, so 2021, so just after Ajay and about 4 years after Dave, I pretty much started the pivot from buying single family homes to buying raw land. And now like 90% plus of my business is buying, improving, selling raw land in the state of Florida. I've also originated a bunch of notes, and that's it. My year's expertise are land flipping, pivoting from single family homes to land, and just managing a business and a team remotely from overseas.
I love it. I love it, man. Tons of good experience there that we're going to drill down on, while also breaking apart your business here in a little bit. We're going to have fun with it.
Let's do it.
Alex, what's up, man? Can you give us a brief background on what you do? It's good to see you.
Nice to see you guys. First of all, thanks for having me. And love to see how we can. I love the feedback that you just gave, which is, you're right. This is a very lonely business, right? It's everybody has some kind of a wholesaler or rehabber friends, and they get to talk and they get together. And a lot of times you get together with a land crew. Maybe there's 1 or 2 of you in your area, and the rest of the time you're just listening to the people wanting to jump off the bridge by owning houses and real estate. So I actually have those battle scars. I came from being a contractor, basically flipping houses, but and also contracting for other real estate investors. Worked my way up from there. I'm a licensed realtor now. Been a licensed realtor since 2014, and we flipped from $1 million homes, apartment, and then here in 2018 was when we started playing with the land. And started doing a lot of subdivides, mobile homes, that kind of stuff. And just stayed with land basically for the last 4 years exclusively. I've literally paused everything else. And here recently, we started going back towards mobile homes and single family affordable housing construction. So.
Okay, cool. And this is so interesting, Alex, because I'm sure we'll drill down on this as we're talking here today. But I think everybody's recognized that as things have gotten more competitive, people haven't been afraid to take on revenue streams that look a little bit different than just the traditional flip and maybe selling under finance, maybe flip on cash. I think that model worked really well from, when Dave started up until through a year and a half ago. It really started getting a lot harder, which is where I feel like wholesaling became more popular. All value add strategies really started to become important, right? We started talking about subdivides more and entitlements more. And now people are getting into like distressed property acquisition, Logan Fulmer style. I myself have been doing some of those deals. You're talking about, I'm hearing mobile homes, slapping mobile and modular homes on properties is becoming a lot more common. New construction is obviously adjacent to what we do. So Colin, I know you're flipping a house again for the first time in a long time in Tampa. Did you guys sell that thing?
It's yeah, it's under contract with a buyer.
Oh,
It was appraised today. I was actually nervous about it because days on market in Florida have been creeping up a lot over the last 2 or 3 years from like, I used to sell stuff over a weekend during 2020, 2021. You'd put it on market on a Friday and choose
God.
full price offers on the Monday. So I was worried that I'm going to be stuck with this for like 60 days, 90 days, 100 days. It might appraise bad. I might have to give big discounts and so on. But surprisingly, I listed it on a Friday for 380, and I got 5 offers over the weekend. Two of them were for 390, and I accepted what I thought was the stronger one for 390. And it's so far so good. I just need to get it appraised, okay. But it's I was actually surprised at how smoothly that flip went, despite being a bit of a heavy lift and a bit of a crazy house. It looks like it's going to turn out pretty good profit wise.
Sweet,
Touch wood.
man.
Very cool.
What's that old expression? You won't go broke making a profit, right? So we like
Right.
we like pretty good profit, man. So, Dave, I want your help here to fill in the gaps. I'm going to talk about the overall structure of how we do the hot seat in the unconference, guys. This session today is called Seven Figure Hot Seat, and the reason being we've got a bunch of seven-figure land investors on here today, and basically what we're doing is it's a hot seat, meaning somebody's in the middle, and we're all focused on them, right? And so what's really cool about the hot seat, and again, Dave, I need you to fill in some cracks here, is we're focused on one person getting value the entire time. So Colin's going to bring up some stuff about his business. Dave, Alex, and myself are going to ask questions, talk about stuff that's worked for us, provide feedback, and make sure it's all like in integrity and in line to the business Colin actually wants to build here in a bit. But the point being, this is what it looks like to process real issues with people going through problems just like ours. But the most important thing is that we're not doing anything self-serving during it. It's a hot seat because the person in the middle, it gets hot when we're grilling you, but also, man, it's focused on you. I don't want to ask questions about me. I don't want to take value from you right now. I really just want the focus to be on you. Dave, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I would say to give everyone an idea of kind of what happens when you come to the unconference. So there'll be several tables where we kind of usually make like a C shape, and then the person in the hot seat will be at the that kind of where the blank is in the C shape, right? So everyone's kind of surrounding them to a degree. And usually what'll happen, someone gets in the hot seat and they'll share a resource, something for just a 5 minutes. It might be a book, it might be a tool that they're using, or something that's really cool to add value to everybody else. So before receiving, you're giving something.
Totally.
And you end up getting all these cool resources, which we're probably going to try to compile it this year. What's a list of every single resource that everybody at the unconference gave in that first few minutes? So Colin and Alex be thinking about, well, I'm chatting here for a little bit. What's a resource or a process or a book or something that might be good to share that's impacted you in the last 4 or 5 months or something like that. And then after that's shared, then usually coming into the unconference, we'll have a couple of virtual calls with everyone, just kind of similar like this, where we're getting to know each other before we actually get started in the hot seats. That way you don't have to spend 30 minutes getting to know somebody's business ahead of it. For today, what I'd suggest, Ajay, is, hey, let's have them share a resource for a few minutes. Then maybe they could spend 10 minutes on their business, giving us a little bit of an overview. And then we'll spend another 30 minutes then doing the hot seat, if you will. So it's not going to be as long of the hot seat time as you might get at the unconference, but it'll give you a really good idea of the kind of things that we do and the depth of relationship and the kind of things that we talk about.
Totally. So this is going to be really, really cool, guys. If you're on with us live, I think we've got over 20 with us live right now. We'll get tons more on the replay. I actually just dropped the link to the Land On conference in the comments too. Really funny. Cameron Schultz said, Ajay beat me to it. I had it in my copy and paste. Dave, remind me, is there still an active discount code for Ajay or did that die?
There is. Yeah. So we actually right this moment, we're cutting it off at 70 slots. So we're at like 56, I think, right now. So we have 14 spots left. So make sure to apply. We will take on a waiting list. If we get enough of a waiting list, we might open up more space. But 70 is probably what I'm currently thinking it's going to be. So if you're interested, through the end of April, we got about 20 days left in April. We'll give you $400 off if you pay before April, not May 1st, not May 2nd, not May 3rd, but April 30th, $400 off. So Cameron, who was commenting there, he actually can give you the code when you call in, because he helps me do some of the vetting on the application. So we want to make sure you're a good fit, and we're a good fit for you in coming to the unconference.
Amazing. All right, now let's make sure we start getting these people some value. We got over 20 people here live with us. I want to make sure we give them some gas that they can use in their businesses to start making more money. All right. Who here wants to make more money? Let me know in the comments if you'd like to take information we're using today and make more money. And if the answer is
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
too.
Let's go.
Me too. Let's see who in the comments wants to make more money. I'm looking right now and I'm not seeing anybody. If anybody wants to make less, next time you're getting a wire, just email me and I'll send the title company my email wire instructions and we'll be good to go. Okay, here we go. Ori wants to make more money. We love that. I see some more coming in. Good stuff. And yeah, guys, I know we're being cheeky here, but this stuff's supposed to be fun. Okay. So, Dave, did you say you wanted to kick off with some hot seat stuff and then get into value after that? Give.
Let's do the usual of do the give for the first few minutes. It could be real short. So Colin and Alex, if you who do we want to, who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
I can go if you want.
I'll go first.
Go ahead, Alex.
The reason why is actually the reason for me driving. So one of the things that I've learned from the business, any business, but particularly in the real estate business, is cash flow will kill you. So you need to learn how to have as much options for capital as possible. And one of the biggest shifts that I had last year and coming into this year, and again, for the reason that I'm speaking of is because I'm actually on my way to conference now for Note School. I'm a member of Note School, but it's having multiple ways to fund your deal to buy and multiple ways to fund your deal when you sell. So your exit strategy, right? So we've talked about notes, and in this case, Dave talks about, mentioned that he's got a big note portfolio. Well, some of us don't have that ability, or you need to keep the business rolling. And so you need to be able to sell your notes. So learning how to get, private money, I'll even throw out there credit card money, business funding on the front end, SBA loans on the front end, all that stuff. And then on the back end, being able to find note buyers for your notes to liquidate. If you guys don't understand this right now, I think it's going to be one of the biggest, the kiss of death for a lot of real estate investors here in the near future. It's coming in a sweep, and it's kind of like the Black Plague. It'll take one of every three out.
So,
right. So
I want to stay. I want to drill down on what you had just said there about more acquisition strategies for funding, more dispo strategies. Let's drill down on notes here for a second, because I think it's actually a pretty important topic for everybody. When you say figure out how to sell a note on the back end, man, let's say I'm not an experienced investor. I've never even generated a note before. Will you give everybody in the audience right now like a 0 to 1? If I needed to go sell notes tomorrow, how do I even do that, man? Where do I go? And I know you and I have some mutual friends at PaperStack, so that'd be an easy one, right? But what will you just speak to? Give me the 0 to 1, man. Let's make this actionable for everybody.
Yeah, sure. So my first answer, as you mentioned, is PaperStack, just because it's a platform. So for those of you who don't understand that, it's basically like an MLS for notes. There's a lot of different buyers on there, and so there's a lot of different paper that's traded there. And so it just matters on what kind of, how you create your notes or originate your notes, and what type of buyers borrowers, really. It becomes, once the transaction is consumed, it becomes a borrower. And so the terminology is, your borrower, how you underwrite the borrower. And your note buyer will have different criteria. Some people will like people that have a W-2. I mean, basically what we call A paper, W-2 job, 2 years of income, that could have gone to a bank, but one little tiny thing showed up on their credit report, or they just didn't make enough money, or that year they had a slow year. All of a sudden they're not qualified to go borrow from a bank. The other side of it is people who sell to, basically $99 down and $99 a month for 60 months kind of thing, which I'm not knocking. I've done it. Just you can find all that there. And so that's the first place, it's PaperStack. The second place is finding, a lot of times you'll find places like Note School, and I know it's again a shameless plug here, but like Note School or other places like it, where you can actually have a network of note buyers, right? So people at Note School buy notes, people at I'll give you another couple examples is if you go to local RIAs, I don't know if that is even a thing anymore. Do they have face-to-face interactions anymore? Right? Local RIAs, but that's where I got a lot of my note buyers originally was from going to the real estate investment clubs, associations. And I think one of the easiest people to sell on a note is a landlord because a landlord's doing it for the cash flow, right?
Yeah.
So if you have any landlords that you know, you can go out after landlords, we market to landlords and that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's a too broad of an answer or not enough, but
No, man,
that's
that's great.
3 right there.
That's great. And actually, I want to drill down because I love the guys at PaperStack. I want to drill down just so you guys know. PaperStack is a free platform to use. So there are 17,000 note sellers and buyers. They did not sponsor this call. They did sponsor my event last year, though. But I love those guys. Seriously, I mean, they're the nicest guys in the world. Alex, I know you're good friends with them too.
Yeah.
And basically, it's a platform like the MLS. It is 100% free to post a note. Now you may be asking, like, how does PaperStack make money? They basically are like a title company. Like, they'll facilitate the transaction and charge a fee, basically. And so, anyways, that's a great tip, man. We moved our first note on there, and it moved in like a day. It was a small note. I think it was like 18 grand in payments over 5 or 10 years or something. We sold it for 10 grand like that on a property we paid, 3 or 4 grand for. So I was happy to get it moved quick. But Alex, that's great. Colin, let's go ahead and save your value add for a little bit later. I want to make sure we start getting into the hot seat here. So I'm gonna tease everybody. Colin's got a super juicy tip for everyone. You're gonna have to stay till the end to find out what it is. Basically how this will look is I'm going to help direct a lot of this conversation, and Alex and Dave, I want you guys to continue to chime in, ask good questions, and add value to Colin as we progress. Sound good? Colin, you good with that?
Yeah.
So Colin, let's start, my friend, just with a brief background on what your business looks like and where you want to go. You don't need to overshare numbers. I know we're streaming this live right now. In a hot seat session in person, you get as detailed and granular as you want to share. But if you want to give us general marketing, team, deal flow today and where you'd like it to be, I think that'd be a really good place for us to start.
Sure. I've always, even when we were flipping like a lot of houses, I've always had really small teams, and it's even smaller now. At the minute, it's me and 3 full-time VAs. 3 of them are based in the Philippines. One is a data manager, so he runs the marketing side of things. And then I have, 2 other people. One does due diligence and a little bit of qualifying, and the other one does texting and a little bit of qualifying. And then I'm the guy who does most of the acquisition. And then I manage the pipeline, raise the private money, get the deals funded, and so on. So the team is pretty small. I've flirted many times, as you know, Ajay, with hiring an acquisitions manager. I'm not afraid to say that I've burned through a few of them. Sometimes through bad luck, sometimes through being not being prepared enough to train them, and just a mixture of things. But I'm kind of, for the next few quarters, I'm kind of good where I am. I prefer to do a small. I know there's some people that do a ton of transactions, that they're doing 100 deals a year. My ideal sizes for my business is to do about 3 deals a month, so about 35 to 40 deals a year. That for me is great, but I prefer bigger deals. The majority of deals in my pipeline are 6-figure deals, so I don't have that many. I don't do very small deals where I'm going to buy for 10 and sell for 20. I don't really do those most of the times. Like, I have, I think, 11 properties in my pipeline at the minute. They're worth, $2 million between them is the resale price. So that gives you kind of an idea. So I prefer, that kind of thing where I'm kind of maybe buying for 50 and selling for 90, or buying for 150, selling for 250, buying for 200, selling for 320. That kind of things. I still do small deals from time to time if they're obviously good. If somebody wants to sell me a lot for 15 that's worth 30, I'll still do it, but it's not what I target. I generally target, lots that are higher value than that, because again, I prefer to do 3 deals a month that I'm making, 50 grand each on them, than do 10 that I'm making 10 grand each. I prefer to have a small, lean business where it doesn't require a ton of my time, where I'm not processing hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of leads every week. In terms of our marketing activity, we're doing 9 to 10,000 letters a month, direct mail. I'm only mailing. We recently pivoted to only doing mail to people that are over the age of 65, because I found that the average age of the people I was buying land from, and this is in Florida, was like 72. So I'm making no money from all these people that are like in their 40s like me or in their 50s like Ajay, you know, so I'm much better off targeting people that are a little older. I couldn't resist. So
Oh, it's all good.
I text everybody. I text all ages because it's basically free to your subscription. Like I have a launch control subscription. So texting is basically free as long as you get the phone number. So I mail everybody and I coordinate texts with the people that get letters and then a slightly different text for the people that don't get the letters. And you know, a little bit of traffic through the website, organic website. I use Carrot. They have some decent land templates that I use. I have two websites, one on the buy side, one on the sell side. In terms of Dispo, I'm a licensed realtor. At the minute, I'm only buying and selling in Florida, so it's very easy for me just to list our lots for sale on the MLS, which is still where we get most of our buyers. But we also do list my VAs, you know, list them on our website on land.com, Land Century, Land Flip, you know, Zillow and wherever else. So, you know, the Dispo side is okay that way. And yeah, it works. I mean, it's a relatively simple business, I have to say, and it doesn't take up a crazy amount of my time. I live in Spain, so I'm in a totally different timetable to the people I'm dealing with. My VA schedule calls for me, you know, generally like 3 or 4 a day at times that suit me. And the VAs work, you know, 9 to 6 Florida time for the most part, and it generally works pretty well. It's at a kind of a steady volume. And, you know, in terms of where I want to go, I mean, you know, I like having more. I'm a very curious person. I like trying new things. So I am in the middle of one entitlement deal at the minute, which I bought 6 months ago for 250. I'm hoping to sell it for about 800 before Christmas. We'll see. It's been a bit of a long haul because I was working on it for a while before I bought it. So I'm open to doing another entitlement deal. You know, also have ones where I'm trying to get road access to a 20-acre lot that could add a lot of value. And yeah, I mean, I don't have ambitions to get to triple in size, if that's what you mean. I kind of have a pretty nice income already. I have a pretty comfortable life in Spain. I like my lifestyle determines the rhythm and flow of the business and not the other way around. So I always try and have a good balance there. I've got 2 teenage kids, got a busy life here in Madrid. So it's kind of more of the same for me this year, Ajay. It's just closing on these nice 6-figure deals, 2 or 3 a month, get my entitlement done by the end of the year, and hopefully add another entitlement in the next quarter or two, and just picking up tips. I've done maybe 16 or 17 owner finance out of the ones I've sold, which has been fun. I've sold on a couple of those as well, just to try it out. I've funded other people's purchases. I'm not really doing that at the minute, so don't ask. But I've dabbled in a different parts of the transaction. It's all good fun. But I'm happy where the business is at the moment.
Okay. I love it, man. I love it. That's super exciting. And I was taking notes as you were talking. There's some good stuff here. I'm curious in the chat. So while we're doing this, if you guys have questions for Colin that you think would be of value to him, please drop them in Facebook, and I'm happy to relay those to him. We actually have almost 30 people here live with us now, so it's been
Oh
trickling,
wow,
which is exciting.
fantastic.
Yeah, I know. I've got a huge following. No, I'm just kidding. It's been fun, but no, I mean, people love, you know, seeing what's going on live. Carolyn's asking if you can provide websites of note buyers. So I'll take note of things people want. I definitely want to focus on Colin right now, but Carolyn, that's an awesome question. I can get that for you later for sure.
I have a question for Colin.
Yeah, please, Alex, go ahead.
So, Colin, what do you see yourself doing the exact same thing 5 years from now and being happy?
I mean, I do get bored. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to do the same thing over and over and over. But I mean, obviously, you need to have a why. I mean, you know, I don't just live to buy and sell land. I mean, that serves a purpose. That the income generated from that is for my family. It's for my lifestyle. It's to help the kids have deposits for future homes. It's to fund the kids' education. It's to buy a vacation home. It's to take time off to go to Ireland to see my parents. It's not just an end in itself. It serves a purpose outside the business. So that gives you the motivation when you're in the middle of a crappy deal, or you're taking phone calls in the evening, or you're dealing with grumpy sellers. It's not that, oh, I don't want to deal with a grumpy seller. I mean, this grumpy seller is helping me earn money that'll fund my daughter's university education. That's the way I look at it. So it's more about the business serves my lifestyle, and I'm here to kind of support the family and fun things for them. That's the way I look at it. But I mean, that kind of being taken care of, I tend to pivot every 4 or 5 years. To answer your question, 5 years ago, I wasn't doing land. I was flipping houses. And 5 years before that, I was doing something different. And 5 years before that. So I kind of gone from selling property internationally to selling like condo conversions to buying and selling our own houses to buying and selling land and moving up the food chain. So I could be doing something totally different in 5 years' time. I do tend to get quite itchy feet. So I may be doing vertical development, I may be, doing joint ventures, building apartment communities or building mobile home parks. I mean, I'm not closing any opportunities, but I don't get bogged down in that side of things.
Colin,
So
I have a question.
I'll ask,
Oh, sorry.
no,
Sorry.
hold on. Let me ask, I guess, can we treat this as if it's a mastermind, like a boardroom mastermind or like a CG mastermind?
Yeah.
Okay. You answered everything but my question. So what
Your
would you
question
like?
was, do I see myself doing this in 5 years' time?
Yeah.
I still see myself being involved in the Florida land business in 5 years' time, not necessarily buying lots for 70 and selling them for 130. I mean, I would hope it would be something higher up the value chain than that. And I'm kind of slowly moving in that direction, but not too fast. I'm not, just quarter by quarter.
Because you have a great business, right? And it's that the beginning was like I've tried hiring an acquisitions person, and you've had some success or mixed success and not really looking to do it. I think that's the biggest value add for you and your business, so long as you're okay with me. Even if it sounds like it's somewhat part-time to you, you don't have to do this full-time, and you're able to be a part of your family's life, which is big why for me, right? Because what you may or may not realize is sometimes, and you said it a minute ago, and I have the same problem, shiny object syndrome. What's the next best thing? So if you're killing it, I mean, you're killing it. If my quick math is you're having a 40-50% profit margin. So let's say you're leveraged, now it's infinity. Like, don't mess that up. I mean,
Sure.
I would just fine tune that. And if it gives you the ability to bring in a second business, and you have the capacity without damaging your current, your priority here, and I think I would stay with what you have right at the moment. And that's what my question was.
I'm in no hurry to do anything dramatically different. It's just I'm going to continue. I have my bread and butter are buying and selling these lots, and every now and again I'll try a slightly higher value lot, or I'll look at an entitlement deal, or I'll look at adding value some way, combining, subdividing. But the bread and butter is going to stay the bread and butter for the foreseeable future. I'm not changing that.
I think your biggest challenge is what's the one thing that could put you out of business? So your problem is not growing. Your problem is, how do I make sure this doesn't stop, right? And so that would be the question I'd ask myself to solve. I keep asking that question over and over and say, what is going to put me out of business? So I'll give you a couple of ideas that happen to many people, not just me, but your marketing stops working. So, what if all of a sudden they stop responding to your mail? What if they stop responding to your text? Because what if you're doing online marketing and all of a sudden it got super competitive, which is what happened to me. Now it didn't make sense to market. Now you had to pivot completely. So I think your best bet in your mind should be buying the right property and keeping an eye, follow your map and knowing where you're going and make sure you don't steer off ship. But also think about the hurricanes coming ahead, or we're going to run out of food, or that kind of stuff, because that's the biggest problem you're going to have. If you're happy with where you're at today, that's what my question was. If you're going to be okay with being here in 5 years, because
I mean, there's a straightforward way of preparing yourself for that. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's straightforward, and that is to have, number one is to network with like-minded professionals and learn from them all the time, like we're doing tonight. Always be doing that, never stop doing that. So that's number one. Number two is make sure your business is financially secure. Don't take all your money off the table. Don't take all your profits to buy fancy sports cars. I mean, have very, very deep reserves in your business. And I mean, you ideally, if you're good at this for a few years, you'll get yourself in a position where you could literally earn no money for a year, and you can still pay all your stuff, and you can still fund your marketing, and you can still pay yourself the salary you need to support your family. So you should have very deep reserves in your bank accounts, and that takes discipline, because when you earn a lot of money, you're tempted to, if you're 5xing your money, it's very tempting to 5x your lifestyle, you know, especially if you're younger, if you're in your 20s or early 30s, it's very tempting to say, let's just get this, let's get the penthouse, let's go on a, you know, let's go on a crazy yacht trip, let's buy
World tour.
let's
The
give my
world tour
sister
that
and my
Ajay.
brother and my uncle all this money. But like, look after your business, have your reserves. You mean 3 months of reserves is good, 6 months is pretty good, 12 months is solid. Now you're talking, you can weather economic shocks and you can weather economic
Yeah.
cycles, and you can
Yeah,
try
let me
doing
interrupt
marketing things.
because I don't want to disagree with you at all. I think you're 100% right. But that's like the whole purpose of this is to give you a different point of view, not whatever you have. The mind that creates the problem is never the mind that solves it. So you don't have a problem today, but there's a book, a really good book from the guy that ran Intel in the beginning, called Only the Cynical Survive. And we're so, especially as entrepreneurs, we're so bullish and so happy to go forward. And we don't think, we think we are the greatest thing since sliced bread. And we don't stop and think about what's it going to be that's going to take me out of business. And if you've been doing business, sounds like you have been doing business for a long time, there's always something. And I promise you, it came from nowhere that you thought. And you having the money or the solvency, that's an ante. So if you ever play poker, that's the buy-in. You cannot say that that's your secret sauce, because that's not a secret sauce. That's you being a part of the game.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in here, Alex, just to redirect it a little bit. So, Colin, I'd be curious to know, because I don't know your business in and out. A lot of people struggled last year, particularly second half of last year. So I'm curious to know in your business, what were you seeing second half of last year? What's happening so far this year? Before we kind of get into your hot seat of what you want to cover. So curious to hear what that was like for you.
You're right. I sold more properties in 2022 than 2023. 2024 was a little better than 2023 for me. I mean, but the days on market, it took me longer to sell houses on average. You know, when I first got into this in 2021, stuff was selling in like 15, 20 days, and then it was like 25, 30 days. And last year in 2024, I had one property that I owned. I was stuck with it for 3 years. But aside from that, the average was about 120 days. So that's like double, the year prior. So that was the biggest thing that you got stuck with properties. I mean, obviously that's a big problem if you're a wholesaler, or if you're not able to take them down and you're banking on having a buyer lined up before in order to do the transaction. That was really, really hard in the second half of last year if you couldn't find the liquidity to take ownership of it, because sometimes you need to do that. You might know it's a really good deal, but you can't wholesale it in 40 days or 60 days. It might take 5 months or 6 months.
But 120 was normal back in the day. Like 120 is not out of the question. That's actually what was normal. That's why I was like, wait a minute, 120 days, that should be your plan. You should be at 6 months or more, because 120, and I know COVID did it to us, right? We all think that 60 days. So I mean, that's not normal. That was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably that's how long I owned them. I mean, actually, the true numbers is probably bigger than that, because I was promoting most of those for a couple of months before I bought them. But my ownership period was 120 days. A lot of them were listed for sale for a couple of months before I even bought them. So that's which I should have mentioned, but it was probably closer to 150 to 160 days. So that's a big deal. That's a long time, especially if you're getting started and you're trying to build momentum. It's very hard to build momentum if your money's only turning twice a year instead of 5 or 6 times a year. Is a huge difference in how your capital can snowball if you're only doing it that way. So
how's this?
Oh, sorry, Dave.
How's this year going so far, Colin? So it sounded like the extended hold times end of last year. So I'm just curious to hear year to date what's happening.
Again, slow. I mean, the ones I've sold this year, the average hold is still over 150 days. It's still slow, and 2 of them were over 200 days. So it's still taking a long time, and some of them deals that I thought would fly. I mean, land is funny. Sometimes you think you're really nervous about something, and you think you might cancel, but you do it, and then it sells in a week, and you're like, Jesus, I was really wrong about that. But other times you think you got a home run, and you're stuck with it for 9 or 10 months, and you sell it for $2,000 profit. One of the deals I sold this year, I bought it for 135. I thought it was going to be a small subdivide. I spent a lot of money on drawings and engineering, on loan interest because I borrowed money to buy it. I sold it for $175,000 a year later and made like nothing, like $1,500. I mean, I didn't lose money, but I may as well have lost money. I paid $20,000 in interest. The guy who lent me the money. But it's, you know, land, like I say, you're going to have bad deals in land, and you got to be able to take care of them. So this year, like January was pretty slow. You know, February picked up, March was okay. I mean, April is looking good. I've got, you know, 4 under contract to sell in the next 3 weeks. So I'm happy with how Q2 is looking, but Q1 wasn't that great. If that was what you're getting at, Dave, it wasn't, you know,
Yeah.
it was a decline on the second half of 24 for me.
I think it's great for all of us to know, just to give context as we get into your.
And again,
your
this
hot
is in the
seat.
Florida market. I don't operate in other states. It's statewide in Florida.
Perfect. All right, Ajay, you want to? Then
Yeah,
we do the hot seat here.
I've been ruminating on this concept I want to present to you, Colin, and see what you think about it. Because,
Okay.
so for some context, and I'll make a point here. We had this deal we were doing. It was really good. And I'm supposed to do a case study on this, and I keep forgetting. But we did this deal in Oklahoma. It was an on-market subdivide double close in Oklahoma. And anybody that does deals in Oklahoma knows that typically you're not supposed to be able to wholesale in Oklahoma. So that was a bit of an anomaly. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because we got permission from the seller to subdivide. We got explicit permission to market. We found a brokerage that was willing to market the child parcels. We even got permission to go through all the subdivide requirements while we were under contract. We had it for 100 days. And I remember we got to 35 days before the contract was set to expire, and we had lined up just a couple of buyers. Now, the deal was still penciling. It still looked good where we were in it, right? But Ben and I, obviously, I think all of you on this call know my business partner, Ben, pretty well. You know, we looked at it and we were like, man, do we want to buy this thing for like a much higher, basically, revenue rate in, you know, the next 3-6 months? Or do we want to aggressively price drop this stuff and line up as much for the double closing as possible? We ended up doing the latter. We ended up aggressively price dropping. And what would have been like a $400K profit deal, we ended up netting just under $200,000. But here's the caveat, is we only had to bring 100 grand to the closing table. And we had already pre-sold the rest of our child parcels where we had them all gone in the next 30 days after that. So we went to the closing table with like the ultimate confidence that this deal was going to make us 200 grand, not an insignificant amount of money. Right? Like, yeah, it's a great deal. I love $200,000 deals.
Yeah.
So let me know in the comments if you want a couple $100,000 deals this year, this month, right? Manifest it right now, right?
That's you celebrate those properly, you know?
Yeah, totally. They're still out there. I love them. But the whole reason I'm telling the story, Colin, is it begs this concept with longer days on market, because I think, Dave, to your point, as people have been so like stressed and kind of scared. I mean, you know, there's fear when there's uncertainty in the market. We had elections last year, which made a lot of fear. Right now, people are talking about tariffs. The markets are all wonky. Dave, you're a financial planner by trade, man. I know this stuff is your bread and butter. And when there's fear and uncertainty in the market, days on market tends to go longer. Right now, obviously, real estate is a weird fragmented business where at the end of the day, we really just need one buyer to buy some parcels for it to work. And so you get these one-offs a lot of times. But the whole reason I'm making this point, Colin, is I feel like at some level, when we do need a cash injection, or when we need a property to sell, or we just want to move something, there's like an ego involved in the price, but there's also a piece of deal scarcity. Like, I know a lot of investors struggle where they're like, man, on paper, I was supposed to make this, but I don't want to sell it for that because I was supposed to make this. Right?
Okay.
When you're doing that, there's a scarcity piece in there. And Alex, I want you to jump in here in a second, my friend. But the whole point is, like, are you fearful of some price drops to move things in a little bit quicker? And I'm not saying you are or aren't, but as I'm presenting this, I'm curious, like,
it's good to say it. I mean, it's easy to fall into that trap. And you know, when everything is selling quickly, then you can just kind of hold out. But now, no, I'm not like that anymore. And I had one, for example, in Cape Coral. a multifamily lot where you could build a sixplex. I bought it from a guy for 160. I thought I was going to get like 270, 280. 2 weeks after I put it on the market, D.R. Horton offered me 250 for it. So I was like, cha-ching, cha-ching. This is great, D.R. Horton. I'll drop it from my asking price was 279. They offered me 250. I said, yeah, let's do it. D.R. Horton, let's go, baby. But they pulled out like a week later, didn't give me any reason, just basically wasted my time. And so I put it back on the market and it kind of sat there for 2.5 months and I dropped the price steadily, like $5,000 every 2 weeks. And then like a week and a half ago, I got a guy who offered me $200,000. This is a property I thought was going to I'd listed for 279 and I thought the O'Horton were going to give me 250, but 85 days later, I'm getting an offer for 200 and I took it. I bought it for 160. I'm going to sell it for 200. It's okay. I'm not going to take the risk. I mean, I haggled with the guy for a little bit, but he's one of these super stubborn old timers and he wasn't budging an inch, like literally wouldn't budge $1,000. So I'm going to sell it to him for $200,000 and I'm just going to get my money back and move on because I don't want to get stuck with that for another 3 or 6 months. It's just one of those that I thought was going to fly off the shelves and it's not. So I have a policy where I will lower prices every 2 weeks, pretty much on everything. And if I do get lowball offers, I'll negotiate with them. And sometimes I'm tempted. It depends on your pipeline. How many are stuck on your pipeline? Have you got, like, if I only got 2 or 3 in my pipeline, then I'll be more aggressive saying, no, I'm holding out for more money. Have I got 10 in my pipeline and I'm running a little low, my cash is getting a little tight? Okay, I'll get rid of a couple of these if the profit margins are there. So you're right that you can't be too stuck in your head that no, I'm holding out for 90 and someone's offering you 70. If you got it for 45 or 50, sometimes 70 is fine. And you just cash the chips and move on.
Totally.
So that
Alex, please.
kind of plays right into my point of what I was going to make, and that's opportunity cost, which people don't understand yet. I don't say yet, meaning like general people. You guys probably do, but my point here is if you had 20 leads coming in every day and you had the ability to pick and choose what deals you did, would you care if you made 10 grand a deal? The answer is no, because you can run a system or a business off of it. But if you're only buying 3 deals a month, then you have to try to squeeze everything you can out of every deal. And I'm not saying this from a standpoint for you, Colin. This is just a general comment, but it becomes a opportunity cost, because if you've got enough leads coming in, then you don't care if you make a little bit of money on that one deal, because it's not the deal that. And so that's why when I pointed out to you that your biggest lever to fix is how do you keep doing what you're doing without messing it up? Because every time someone else shows up to your market or someone else competes against you or someone else, what they're doing is reducing the profit, right? That's all. The only thing that moves is the profit, because that guy that gave you 200,000, whether we like to admit it or not, because I'm guilty of the same thing. My name is Alex and I am a price hunter. That's what the market will pay. 200K is what the market would pay. And so unfortunately, it could, maybe 6 months ago, we would have paid more. And I get that, right? And so that's why I'm going to just.
You might have got to look at, and also that it was in a flood zone, which is more of a problem than it used to be.
Oh, yeah. Don't buy in a flood zone.
It would have sold quicker if it wasn't in a flood zone, but half of Cape Coral is in a flood zone, and this is one of them.
Well, for the sake of time, guys, let's get to the hot seat again. We're doing a little bit longer on the business just because we don't necessarily know everyone's business right now. But so, Colin, I would love to hear from you now that we have kind of context of kind of where you're at, what your business is like. Sounds like you have a great business going, got marketing going, staff the way you want it, living a lifestyle business. What's a problem that you're going through right now that we can help mastermind around for you?
I mean, one of the things I'd like to work on, which I mean, and I know there's resources out there, is to get better at training my VAs, to train them to be better on the phones, to be better at spotting. So it's not, like, I'm not a very good teacher. I think I'm pretty good on the phone. I have a lot of experience, but I'm not very good at teaching people. I don't consider myself very good at training people how to spot hints in people's voice, or how to spot hidden motivations that people, that are obvious to me when I'm listening to recordings that might not be obvious to them. So I do want to invest in some training, or outsource, some training to my VAs to teach them how to get better qualifying people on the phone. I think that's a low-hanging fruit that I've been guilty of ignoring for a while.
So tell me more about that. When you say training VAs, are you referring to lead managers? Are you referring to
Yes.
transaction
Yeah.
coordinators? Like
No,
what
lead
role are you referring
managers. Just like processing so the leads come in and we qualify them, we ask the basic questions, but the idea is to try and spot who are the ones that are motivated to sell at a discount. Sometimes you get lucky and someone says, yeah, if you give me 30, I'll sell it. And it's, that's a great price for you. But we know that doesn't happen very often. You need to be a bit more empathetic. You need to build rapport. You need to be on the phone for a while. You need to kind of ask leading questions. You need to dig in a little bit. So how do I train my VAs to get good at that so that they're only scheduling calls for me that have a higher likelihood of being motivated to sell at a discount?
Only anyone knew somebody that had a training program to train acquisition. Isn't that you, AJ?
Yeah, I do some. That's what we do in the Land Closers Academy. We are more focused on acquisitions than we are lead management, but in the least, there's tons of good stuff in there. I am curious, Colin, do you prefer doing that? We did not set this up so I could sell Colin a coaching package, so everybody knows.
Or
Gotcha!
did
No.
you?
Although I am getting a commission if he signs up.
Yeah, no kidding. That's hilarious. That's not at all what we're doing. But I think to Dave's point, this is a great question of, hey, so what do we want the ideal outcome to be? We want our lead managers to be able to qualify sellers better. I think there's two things at bay here, Colin, because you're telling me you want to qualify the lead managers better, which I think would really help with you being the only acquisition manager. You just want the best leads on your desk right now, right?
I want to spend time with people that are willing to work with us. I don't want to spend 50% of my time or 80% of my time talking to people that want
Fire
market
kickers.
value. I want market value and that's it,
So
I'd
can I
rather
play devil's
not be
advocate
somebody
for a
else.
half second? I'm gonna play devil's advocate here for a second. I don't know if I cut out there, but I'm wondering now. I know that we have tried to hire an acquisition manager and it has not worked. I think 3 times now, right?
5 times. Is it 5?
Jesus.
Four, and it's more than 3.
That's a lot. Dave, I want your help here as we dive into this. But Colin, are you at a place where you feel like you've kind of given up on trying to hire an acquisition manager? And here's why I'm asking.
Not that I'm giving up, just that I'm taking a break from it for a while because I was doing it pretty intensively from like May to December 2024.
Okay, that makes sense. And listen, guys, like if you haven't hired for that role, it is a whole hiring funnel, and then you bring somebody in, and then there's a training piece, and you're giving them your leads that you paid for while you're doing it. So there's like a lot of sensitivity and just tons of work that goes into hiring, training, onboarding an acquisition manager. All the while, you need to manage them so that they perform. I'm a big fan of having US based acquisition managers, or at least like native English speakers. I know people have differing opinions on that, but I also recognize it's like a pretty heavy lift, Colin. So just as you're telling me the problem, I just want to be conscious and call out the problem that you're calling out is for like the solution of you continuing to close. You know what I mean? Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't have lead managers that qualify well, but I'll also say that I think it like brings about another problem of like you're closing all the deals. So you're trying to solve for this problem for how the business is today. And I just want the business to grow in a way that you want it to grow. So if your plan is to bring in an acquisition manager, I just wonder which problem we should solve for is my question. I don't have the answer, but like what comes up as I'm thinking through that, as I'm saying that out loud.
No, look, my ideal world would be to have like 2 lead managers and an acquisitions manager, and they're going through the funnels, and then they come to me with the deals that are a little bit hard to evaluate, and I'll say, no, we're not. This is worth 100, and we're not offering more than X, and then I'll kind of deal with the higher end buyers, and most of the cookie cutter stuff can we just be me saying, hey, this guy's agreed to sell for 50. Are you good with that, Colin? And I'll be like, yeah, good job, get the contract out. That's where I'd love to be, and that's where I was trying to get to with these acquisitions managers. And it was 4. I was counting, it was 4 acquisitions managers. 2 of which didn't last more than a week, so they barely count. And then one lasted 3 months and another lasted, I think, like 2 months. So Yeah, I think that was an ideal scenario, but it's a lot of brain damage. Like I interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of people and onboarded like and in a lot of second interviews and then onboarded for. And again, this is nothing new. You guys have hired more people than me. So it's probably something I will revisit, but I just decided I let the last guy go just in January, and I'm like, okay, I'm taking a break. I'm just going to focus on getting the revenue in myself with the pipeline and adding to it myself, and I'll look at this again, in the summer. That's kind of where I was at.
Well, I would like to, if it's okay with you, Colin, and please redirect me if you don't want this. Your original question was about training VAs to be better on the phone, lead managers in particular.
That's
So why do you feel that is a problem? And again, if you don't want to talk about this, I'm just curious to know what brings that up that you would have said this is something I want to talk about.
It's not that it's a problem. It's just that I know they have the potential to be much better with training from people that know how to do it. That like I do calls with them. Maybe we do calls maybe 3 times a month, where we listen to calls and I'll give them feedback and I'll do a call for them and they'll listen to me on the call and else, so we do that 3 times a month and they get value from it. But I know in my heart of hearts that they would get more value from a structured program from a professional who knows how to do it and knows how to teach it better than me. And so that they can be instead of like finding like 2 good leads out of 20, they're going to find 6 good leads out of 20 because they're just sharper. They're just like they know what to do better than they do now.
Well, I want to point out something that you said is you are doing
it comes down.
Well, hold on, Alex. Let me make a point here. So you are doing call reviews regularly with your team, which is a very, very good thing that me personally just really started doing the last couple of months. And so congratulations on doing that because
And they love it because I wasn't doing them for
it.
the longest time and they're so happy that I'm taking the time to do it and to train them and like it fills them up. So I was like, shit, I should have done this a long time ago. I was so, stupid not doing this because they really appreciated it and it was good for business. So it was a total win-win to do it.
What are you doing with those once you're done with it? How are you utilizing them beyond, giving it live?
What do you mean? Sorry, how am I?
How are you utilizing the call reviews? So you do them live. What happens after that?
No, we don't do them live. I get them to submit calls they've done, the previous days, and we go through them and I'll pause and you say, do you hear what he said there? I think you should have followed up with this question because he said that. Okay, let's listen to that again and let me know what you think. So we like review a call in slow motion rather than live calls.
Are they with you when you're listening to them? Or
Yeah,
is it just
they put them in. We have a Slack channel, and one of the channels is for putting call recordings, and then we listen to them together, and I give them feedback.
Got it. What do you currently have in place for a training program? Let's say one of your lead managers leaves; they're not here anymore. What do you have in place for them? If you
have a lot of those calls recorded, and I kind of roughly named with how to deal with grumpy people, how to spot a probate sale. So we have different teams, and I have a lot of recordings of training calls, acquisition calls, qualifying calls, disposition calls. So we have lots of recordings that someone can go through. Again, obviously I have an onboarding for the acquisitions managers that kept coming and going. I got like better at onboarding. The onboarding program got better every time, which is one good side effect. But because these lead managers have been with me for like, 2 years, I haven't really done an onboarding. So I'd have to build one, but I've got enough raw materials that I think I could build a pretty decent one if one of them left. I could cobble it together from the resources we've recorded and the documents. And we have a process document color coded with everybody's role, which starts with the marketing, the leads coming in, the leads getting processed, the properties getting bought, the properties getting sold, and what everyone's task is. And there's video recording, so it's like 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. So that's someone who had access to that could get up to speed reasonably quickly if they were motivated.
Now, for everyone that's listening, you'll notice I'm going about this a certain way. I'm not at this point trying to give him advice, right? We want to be asking lots of questions, trying to uncover what's his current process, what's he doing. So, and when someone's in a hot seat, we don't want to insert our opinion as much as trying to assist them in thinking things through, so we can better understand before we give advice. So. Colin, I would love to know, like, given that this is a problem you brought up of trying to train your lead managers, what have you looked into up to this point of different people or programs?
I mean,
or...
yeah, there's resources out there. Ajay's recommended one of them. I know Kieran recommended one, and there's companies out there. I mean, I can name them if you want, but that I just need to take the plunge and spend the money and do it. So I really have no excuse, to be honest with you. It's just something I've been sitting on my hands for. I kind of know what to do and just let them do the program and spend the $10,000 on this great program to get them up to speed. And so yeah, I just need to do it, frankly, Dave. I think I just need to. I have a program in mind that I think will be good. That's been recommended to me for lead managers, and the same outfit also has similar parallel programs for sales managers or acquisitions managers. So it could be something that I could latch onto once an acquisitions person is or if they're on the team. So so yeah, I mean, yeah, but again, I've invested in things before. I mean, it's very easy to spend money on on resources in this game. There's masterminds, there's lots of sales training out there. You can easily burn through a lot of your money. So and I've done a little bit of that over the last couple of years, which is another reason why I'm hesitant. But again, you can't use that as an excuse for too long. I think I just need to invest in these ladies, and it'll be good for the business and good for them.
So what do you think's holding you back right now? Why aren't you pulling the trigger today?
I think just the experience of getting burned with the acquisitions manager, the experience of investing in kind of sales training for them, that just kind of went to waste. So okay, I want to take a break from spending money on training for a bit, which isn't fair on them. So nothing's stopping me. I should do it next week. Yeah.
Can I bring something up?
Sure.
You go ahead.
Like, I think, and I hear a hesitancy in your voice. Let me present it a different way. And what I mean by present it, I guess my goal is to see if I can kind of help reframe your brain. And the answer that I've found worked for me, this was for me, was if I'd have sent a mail out and I would have gotten no response, I'd have quit right then and there. Or I would have sent a something like, this sucks, I'm not doing this anymore. And, bottom line is, we don't treat the acquisition, whether it's an acquisition manager or lead manager or all that, we'll call it the front end of the business, even the back end, right? So it's the same answer on the back end. If you don't treat it with the same mentality and money that you would treat the marketing, what you may not realize is you're missing leads because you don't have a very well-trained lead manager. So if you look at it from that standpoint, you're losing money if you don't do it.
You're right. I'm investing money in good marketing. And yeah, there's a glitch in the pipeline that the funnel is narrowing when it shouldn't be because of a lack of training, probably. Again, they're not bad. I'm not saying they're terrible. They're not terrible. They're actually okay. They're pretty decent even. But I know there's a lot of room for improvement with professional training.
Well,
yeah, where I was going to go with this is...
Well, Alex, let me interrupt you real quick. We have Diane with us. Diane DeLongchamps, hello, welcome.
Okay. I am so sorry. I thought it started at 3 Mountain Time, so I am so sorry I'm late. But I'm happy to be here. How are you?
Welcome.
Glad to have you here. So Diane, we're have Colin on the hot seat right now just to catch you up. So we're talking about his business. We're talking about lead managers and coaching right this moment. And he was saying that, yeah, I need to invest in them, do some training. Do you have any thoughts on that or questions to ask Colin to help clarify this issue for him?
So what I'm looking at doing, Colin, is actually I've got some friends who, instead of like hiring lead managers, I've got a couple of friends that are really good at sales that are looking for an additional income stream. And what I'm actually going to do is start working with them because they already know sales. They're already, we're going to pay them a commission on the net of whatever property they sell, they help us sell. They actually get under contract. We're going to have them help us a little bit into like the dispo process, but we're going to be paying them 10% of the net on any deal they bring in and help us get to the finish line. But so instead of, bringing on people that are newer to sales or even have like, they don't have experience in this industry, but they're really good with people and they understand how to have conversations. And so I don't know, that's something that we're doing.
And are
I don't
they
know if that
already working other
helps you at
jobs, or is
all.
this going to be
Huh?
their? I'm just wondering, like, what are you going to do if there's a hot lead that needs to be called now, and like your friends can't call them until 3 o'clock or something?
So we talk to them and just kind of figure out what their schedule is. And so,
Hmm.
every week can be a little bit different. But we're really small. I mean, we're a small team. It's me and my partner, and then we have two people that are helping us with calls, and then we've got two part-time VAs. So we communicate pretty easily because we are so
Hmm.
small. But we just kind of talk to them about what their hours are and like ask them like, how many leads do you want this week? Do you want leads this week? Where are the leads? And then we're having a weekly meeting where we just kind of go through the pipeline and kind of see where they are each week.
All right. And is this something that's up and running, or are you just getting it started now? Like, have you
We've been
got?
doing it with a couple of people, but what I'm trying to do now is like finish creating all the training material, meaning
Okay.
like basically the process and then listening to me on some calls.
Hmm.
Um, we've been doing it with a couple of people, but I'm hoping to add two more people in the next, I would say 60 days.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I
it's
mean, I
just,
can
I
see
don't
how
know.
that can
It's a
work.
thought.
Commission only with experienced salespeople, 10% is good money for sure. That'll be tempting for a lot of folks if you're getting.
I got a
Yeah.
question. Why don't you hire a rock star for that?
Alex, you're breaking
That's what they charge, right?
You're
Alex,
breaking
you're
up, Alex. It's hard to hear you.
Sorry, can you guys hear me any better?
right this
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, why don't you hire someone that's full time for that? Why does it have to be your friend? And not picking on you, just curious. Why would you? So if I had an
Oh,
NFL team,
yeah.
why would I just go get somebody that's in a high school football game or go get someone that's already really good? And I'll give you an example of what I mean. There's a lot of people getting out of the business right now that I think are really good
Mhm.
just because they can't afford to pay the bills. That'd be great. So this is the old e-myth, right? You got the great operator that is or a great, we'll call it tradesperson that's also not good at operating a business. Go get one of them and give them 15% and let them right out of the chute start killing it for you, because the lag time of you qualifying and listening to their calls. I think why I'm saying this is because I've trained salespeople for 15 years. And I could tell you that I've done it all from a standpoint of listening to. I'm a great salesperson, right? So it's kind of the same thing as Ajay. I'm a great salesperson, so I think everybody has this naturally. And man, I've come to the conclusion that this is like a wide receiver or a quarterback. Not everybody can do it. It's a talent that can be taught. It could be perfected, but I can promise you, there's going to be people just flat out won't work. And to me, it's like if you're going to spend money, that's where you should spend top dollar in your company. Is the point of critical mass. And I don't understand why people like you are your best. If you're the acquisition person, it's natural to you because you're doing it. But you're going to go hire, especially if it's a VA. But you're going to go hire someone that's coming from, I don't know, car sales or I've done car sales, shit, door to door sales. Um,
Sure.
Mary
Yeah.
Kay,
So
for Christ's sakes.
I hear you, Alex. I totally hear you. Yeah. So let's I think that's a good point, that hey, hiring the right person is so important. Do you feel you have the right people right now, Colin? in lead
actually,
management?
Alex made an interesting point. Like, and I tried to find a rock star salesperson. Like, I wanted a rock star to work with me and almost to be like a right hand, potential, as well as an acquisitions manager. But um, it's hard when you're running a small, like, virtual business. When
Not
one guy
hard if you're
goes,
making profit. If you're
when you're
making
running
enough
a
money in
small,
your business, you have the ability to do it. It's a cash flow problem, right? That's all it is. Solve for cash flow and you'll have enough money to pay those people.
yeah, no, that
And I
wasn't the
know I'm
point I
being
was
a little bit
making.
sarcastic, but that's the truth.
So the what I was trying to say is that what I found is a lot of the people putting their name forward for the interviews weren't rockstar material. Like, the rockstar guys are often going to the very well established companies with the downtown offices with the sales teams of 5 or 10 people, where they've got like the sales manager, the sales director, the CFO. That's like a lot of rock stars gravitate towards those because they've got the security, they've got the potential to move up the ladder. That a lot of like rock stars go there. The guys that are like, I'm an investment banker, I want to be Goldman Sachs. I'm not just going to work for this crappy local bank. I'm going for Goldman Sachs. So I found a little bit of that. I mean, sometimes if you get lucky, you get a rock star who maybe heard me on a podcast, or my story resonated with them, or or something like that, then yeah, maybe you can get one. But a lot of the time you're kind of just getting at maybe a younger person who's like a B and can turn into an A with the right kind of mentoring, but it's hard to get to an A just to parachute into a very small business, or I've kind of found that over the years anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I think hiring is not easy. It's hard with that, and training. You were
Yeah,
talking about outsourcing the training to somebody else. So I want to kind of go back to that a little
sure.
bit. That's like, hey, they might add something to you. We're gonna have to wrap up this hot seat pretty soon, so we can move on to the next one for the sake of time. So Ajay, if you need to hop in here, please do. But I'm curious to know, like I think of some of the people I've gotten coached and trained with, which I've done, and it's been great. At the end of the day, what they're suggesting may not fully be our business. Our business is similar, but also different. You know what I mean? So like you can
Yes.
outsource training to a degree, but the way you look at things at the end of the day might be different than the person training you.
And I think
So
you're like, you need your own goals dialed in. You need your KPIs dialed in. You need your people need to have objectives. Like, you need to make 20 calls a day. You need to set X appointments a day. We need to get X contracts a day. So you need to have that. If you have none of that done, that's obviously a low hanging fruit, which you can take care of. If you're not doing daily huddles, you need to be doing your daily huddles. So there's a lot of stuff that people with similar sized businesses could be doing with their 2 or 3 VAs that they maybe aren't doing, that they don't have their KPIs that they go through in their calls every day and do their huddles. So I don't know if you're alluding to that, Dave, but the sales training is more a supplement. Once you have all the basics done in your own business, then the training will give them that boost to really get into fifth gear. But like getting, I think, into second or third, like, you need to have the foundation. Otherwise, the sales training's not going to be a whole lot of good to you.
Yeah, I want to jump in.
Oh, go ahead, Ajay.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
go.
I think something to point out too that I think a lot of people forget, and I'm not saying this is you, Colin, but I know I forget frequently, is that training is ever going, right? I think especially with the way like coaching programs and programs are and stuff, it's really easy to be like, oh, I'm going to stick somebody in Ajay's program for a few months and then they're going to be good forever, right? And the reality is, this is where it really becomes important for us as business owners to commit to leveling up, right? I mean, Dave and Colin, both of you mentioned, hey, I'm doing call reviews and I wasn't doing that 6 months ago, right? And so that tells me you're up leveling yourself as a leader to serve your team better, because we've got to build a business that, maybe didn't need as much support a year ago.
That's a really good way of putting it. Yeah, that you're part of it's upgrading yourself as a leader in order to bring them up as well.
Totally. And the last point I'll make here, and I don't know if this one will make sense to you, Colin, because it's an American football reference, but it has to do with fundamentals. And if you guys don't know, we mentioned this. Colin's a European through and through, but he did spend a half a decade living in the States. So, so much so his son is actually a big NBA fan now. But anyways, Vince Lombardi, right? Super famous coach, would start every single season with, "This is a football." And this is him talking to his professional football team athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a joke, but it's also a reminder of how much the fundamentals matter. And we need to be reminded of the fundamentals frequently, right? Which is why, like in my trainings and in my community, I drill my people every week for how many leads did you get? How many offers did you make? How many contracts did you get signed? If I don't have those three numbers, I don't have a snapshot of your business. But if I do, those are the fundamentals to make sure we're regularly bringing in inventory, right? And if you're regularly bringing in inventory, most other problems in this business can be solved. Now, I'm not saying it'll be easy, but if you got tons and tons of inventory at good prices, you can always drop prices, get some money back, and pay for.
Sales cures all. Sales cures all.
Exactly.
Sales cures all.
Exactly. So now, Colin, I think we probably will need to wrap up with you here in a second. And
sure, absolutely.
In terms of hot seat, does anybody have any final thoughts or questions for Colin before we close out?
I wanted to share something that maybe it'll be helpful to Colin, maybe not, and maybe everyone else that's listening. Ajay, be okay if I shared my screen for?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me make sure you got permission. Go ahead and try while I'm doing this.
Yeah, there we go. So in Basecamp, we have all kinds of things built out here. So Colin, I think as you get training from somebody else, you want to build out your training program with different things, right? So transaction coordinators, we have all kinds of things built out
really
here.
Cool.
We have TC timeline follow-ups, right? Like we just started building out TC call reviews. You can see here in the last week, we have 3. So this way, there's call reviews built out. So I'm trying every single department, acquisition managers, lead managers, we have scripts, we have projects, we have training programs, we have expectations for performance, rapport building questions, stuff from our good friend Jenny, who had different things. So we're putting this all together and it's constantly evolving. It's never the same. So I think, getting training is awesome. And I highly encourage everybody should have a coach, whether you're working with Ajay or Jenny or whoever, on different aspects of your business. You want to constantly be leveling up and building out things. The other thing that I would encourage everybody, which you and I know had gone through closers.io, they suggest having a playbook. And so this is something I've been building out that has different things on it with, hey, here's this training stuff. Here's all these call reviews, depending upon what people do, daily stand-up examples, stuff like that. So I really feel strongly that, hey, go through someone else's program. It's awesome. But at the end of the day, you need to have your own. So I feel very, very strongly about that. Was as much as we can learn from Ajay, he's not running your business and he doesn't want to run your business. He wants to help you, but you have to figure out what's your own thing. And so this is something that I personally spend hours and hours and hours over time, not all immediately, but building out these kinds of things to have those. And guess what? Stuff gets old and we have to revise it. It's a constant
Welcome
process.
to being a business owner, right?
I know, that's super impressive, Dave. That's a really cool layout. I love that Basecamp, the software you're using there, and then the Google Doc with all the links. And again, and you're reminding me, I did a lot of that. It's not as good as yours, but I've done a lot of that stuff, but it's old. I need to go back and spend another 5 to 10 hours updating it because I haven't done anything since God knows when, maybe October 2023 or something like that. So it's to be updated and refreshed.
The market hasn't changed since October 2023, Colin. Don't worry, you're good. Just you said you're investing in Florida, right? I think we might send out some marketing there here soon. Just kidding. That was a joke, everybody.
Knock yourself out.
Yeah, right.
Colin,
I think. Oh, sorry, Dave.
I was gonna say, hey, Colin, did we add value to you? Want to make sure this was your hot seat. Want to make sure you got something out of this.
You did. That was really, really helpful, and I love the way you're asking questions to get to kind of tease the information out. That's really effective. So yeah, I'm very appreciative of the assistance. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right. One thing we like to do at the very end of any of these things is clap for everyone to say thank you for sharing. So thank you, Colin.
Thank you, Colin. I know, we just clapped. I do want to share 2 things real quick before we transition here. And the first one is our team does snaps. We stole those from Jenny Hudspeth, funny enough. I learned tons from Jenny, and I know we've all talked about her. A lot of us on this call know her. But we like them just because the visual is so much better on a Zoom. So on our Friday team meetings, when every week we celebrate wins with our team internally, we all do snaps when we're celebrating wins. So clapping's cool, but it doesn't look good on the Zoom. You look silly. It's all over the place. And then like you don't want it to actually be loud. You're like most of us work in a home office. Dave, I know you don't. But it looks weird. And whereas snaps, they're fun. They're energetic. They're cool, right? So maybe this is the 20-something-year-old in me that's doing this, but that's piece number one. Piece number two, I was going to share it as a quick tip earlier. I shared it in my private community, and I just want to make sure everybody hears this because we just have getting so much success with it. Quick tip, and then we're transitioning just to keep attention and have some fun. If you aren't doing this, you're losing money, okay? I've got your attention now. So anytime we send out purchase agreement we use DocuSign. So DocuSign, PandaDoc, Sign Now, Signaturely. I don't care what you're using. It's all the same stuff. We have a Zapier integration that when they open up the document, we get a push notification to our open phone and to our Slack. Okay. So text message to our open phone that says, hey, Colin Murphy just opened up your document. Now what that does is I know my seller is looking at a purchase agreement right now. You know what I do? I call them up exactly and say, hello, like we haven't touched base. And it's so funny. The amount of deals that I personally have closed with that on top of my team, where they're like, that's so funny. I was just looking at your purchase agreement. I'm like, oh my gosh, I guess it was meant to be.
I love it.
Right? And they've got no idea, but it feels like fate. And there have been almost no deals we have not closed when they pick up the phone with that. So I see everybody writing it down. It looks like this is one that we haven't. I feel like I don't talk about some of these little things enough that we've done over time that have like helped us get stuff across the finish line. Dave, you guys aren't already doing that, are you?
You know, I've heard you talk about it before,
oh, man.
but
I feel like
I have not implemented it. I have heard it probably 2 times.
Good stuff.
Well, sorry. Here's what I want to say too: is people come to the On conference or stuff like it, like you're not going to implement everything. So pick your 5 things maybe on your list of here's what you're going to implement as you get a lot of different ideas and things that you want to do, because it can be very overwhelming with the amount of stuff that you could do. Totally. So Ajay, this is why I haven't done it. It hasn't been on my top 5.
It just hasn't been important enough to you, Dave. You don't like closing deals, I guess. No, I'm just
no.
Funny enough, our friend Kieran Collin is he's in the chat right now. He said, writing this down. Thank you, Kieran.
Yeah, it's a great tip.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's helped us close some really important deals. So love it. Now let's transition. Dave, do we have enough time for another hot seat here?
Let's do it.
We slotted quite a bit on the calendar. Alex, just because your audio has been a bit choppy and we did originally plan for Diane to be in the second hot seat, are you okay if we have the hot seat? Awesome. Appreciate you, my friend. Guys, if you don't know Diane, she rocks. So yeah, no, I feel like is the first time we met in Dallas last year, or did we meet before that? I feel like I've seen your name around for so long.
Well, that was the first time like we officially met.
Okay. I know
I think we'd been on like a couple Zooms together for a couple things.
Great. And we run in some of the same circles, right? We both know Callan and a bunch of other great people. And so Diane came into the land space, and I feel like she took it by storm, getting plugged in with people like Callan and Kendall Lejeune and so many other great folks in the space. And very quickly scaled up her business to a 6-figure business, and now is just crushing it and loving life. And she's always got such a great smile on her face. So I always love a chance to get to chat with her, and she's a wealth of knowledge if you actually open up your ears and listen. So this should be a lot of fun. For those that don't know, do you want to give a brief background on what your business looks like right now? Or actually, wait, Dave, should we start with a quick tip from her? I don't know if she was prepped for it.
Always.
So Diane, we asked Colin for like basically a resource or piece of advice as we were getting started. So if you have something in like a 3-minute or less value add to the community, does anything come to mind that everybody should check out and get value out of? It can be as simple as a book, YouTube video, podcast, tip you use to close deals, any resource coming to mind. I know we're putting you on the spot.
Oh gosh. Okay. So I have a couple little ones. One's faith-based. There's this really cool book called Prayers for Your Business. And it's like a prayer for every week. But it's very chill. I'm very low key, but my background is in network marketing. I spent 14 years in network marketing after I was in corporate America for a long time. And a lot of people there were very, very faith-based. And I'm still working on my stuff. I'm a work in progress.
Aren't we all?
But I saw the ones that were so seriously faith-based, just like believe that this was all going to work out for them. And it was so interesting because so many women that had that strong faith base did so well in the business, were top earners. And then one of them recommended this book, like right before my network marketing days ended. And so I got it and I started reading it now before I sit down and make my calls to sellers and things like that. And I have to tell you, it just helps me be like, okay, you know what? This is all going to be good. It's all going to be good. It's all going to work out. So that is something that I've really enjoyed. And, I think what I have found, like my biggest tip as far as like my side of the business, which is on the acquisition side, is, really just talking to people like they're humans and having good conversations with them and listening to them and taking notes, and taking notes on like what's going on in their day. Like, did they just have to fire a bunch of people? Are they having a bad day because they just had to fire 15 people? Like I talked to this guy, a couple weeks ago, and that was happening. And like just things like that, and like taking those notes and following up with them so that when you talk to them the next time, it's personal. Like you're building that rapport, right? And that's what we talk about in the land business a lot, is how do you build that rapport? And so we know that first call isn't typically the deal that, the day the deal gets done, and it takes some follow-up and some conversation. So just, I think the more you can learn about a person and visit with them and just talk to them like, kind of a friend, the more they're going to trust you and the more potential you're going to have in closing that contract. Those would probably be,
agreed.
I mean,
Totally agreed.
I could go on and on about other stuff, but those would be my two biggest ones right now.
No, that's great. I listen to dozens of calls from other investors and acquisitions managers every week. And the amount of times I'll hear stuff where like somebody just passed away and they just don't even acknowledge it in the call. I'm like, oh my gosh, if you were like in conversation at a coffee shop and somebody's like, my husband just died, and you were like, okay, how long did you guys have any plans for the property? I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
the human element of this. I understand there's a script, but good Lord, guys, like just open your ears a bit,
Seriously.
And so,
I've had 3 in the last 2 months. I've had 2 spouses and a child and a son die with 3 different sellers. Gosh. I sent them all. I was like, you know what? This is not the time for us to have this conversation. You need to take care of your family and yourself. And I'm so sorry. I'll reach back out. And I always send them, I got the little, sympathy cards, and I send them a card, not with my card in it, just a nice note with my name on it. And then I always follow up like, a month later, just to check in, see how they're doing. But yeah, no, yeah, right. I mean, if someone's spouse just died, you kind of should acknowledge that in the conversation.
Totally. Yeah, funny enough, maybe not funny, but we've had 2 deals. I'm sorry, Dave, I know we need to transition here. We've had 2 deals in the past 2 months where we've like sent out paperwork after a verbal and then a spouse dies. And it's like, oh my gosh. And we always send flowers is what we do when somebody's passed away. So we have a 1-800 Premier Flowers account because you can get sent out typically same day. And it's, $40-$50. And the biggest, I think, piece of advice I got from my good friend Josh Pierce, who owns Creme de la Creme and does like the whole cookie closers things. We love their stuff. We've been sending out cookies. It's helped us put like 300K on the board in the past 2 months. But anyways, he always talks about how you want to make yourself unforgettable. It's like deal insurance, basically. And so anytime something's on the fence, especially if it's a deal where the objection's not price, it's a deal, the timing just might not be right. And if the timing's not right, I want to build a relationship so good that they don't want to sell to anybody else. Right. So anyways, this isn't about me. We're supposed to transition into your hot seat here. So why don't we go ahead and start off? If you want to give us a background on what your business looks like, I'll tell you the same thing I told Colin. You don't need to share specific numbers, but if from a general perspective, you could tell us about where you are and where you want to be. And we can talk through marketing, team structure, general revenues if you want, or inventory values, just whatever you feel comfortable sharing. We are in a Zoom that is also streaming to 20 to 30 people at any given time, where we will also be posting this on YouTube. So just know that it's just us and a couple hundred of our best friends that are tuning in.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so so when I started in the land business a year ago, I started by myself. It was just me, and I did about 8 deals in my first few months in the business, and then in June of last year, I went to the Supercars conference, and I met a woman by the name of Leah Albanese, and we ended up doing some calls together one month, and then it worked out so well because she liked the dispo side and the comping side, and I like talking to people, and so we just formed a partnership, and so we've been working together ever since, and it's just me and her. We've got a couple of part-time people helping us with sales and acquisitions. And then we've got 2 part-time VAs helping us with just some of the day-to-day kind of things that we got tired of doing, that takes a lot of time, that has to be done, but we don't necessarily need to be doing them. And so we've done about 6 deals in the last 6 months together. And they've been pretty good deals. We've netted about $350,000.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's been awesome. I mean, before expenses, but netting,
Sure.
when we close the deal. And our goal is to do $1 million this year, which we're super excited about. And we call mostly, well, we really call on anything, but mostly like an acre and above. So we don't do like a lot of infill lots. We've had been fortunate to have a lot of larger properties, which has been nice, higher value properties. We've got about 15 things on the board right now that we have under contract that we're trying to sell, but that seems to be a little bit of a struggle right now. I don't know. And then we're looking to just bring on a couple more people part-time for acquisition, and then maybe someone part-time to help us with dispo. And that's kind of where we are right now.
Can we drill down on what your marketing looks like right now? How are you getting your seller leads?
Oh yeah. So we actually are doing cold calling. So we use Land Caller, and we just use their service. We get about, I'd say like 60 to 65 leads a month. And out of that, well, sometimes it takes a while, but out of that, we've probably gotten 25 contracts, and we've been using them for about 6 months. No, that's not true. We've been using them for 5 months.
That's great. So you started just a little bit before the new year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's great. 25 contracts. And are you guys just using one caller with Land Caller?
We are just using one caller with them right now. We are going to talk to them. I'm going to see if they'll actually, I don't know if they'll do this, but I'm going to see if we could do like 1.5 callers. I don't know if I'm ready to do like 2 callers quite yet, but see if they'd be willing to do that. I don't know if that's something they do, but that's what we're looking at.
Split one with another investor, see how we can.
Yeah, well, there's that too.
Yeah, right.
That's a good idea.
Cool. So we're scaling up some marketing. Let me ask, what do you think is the biggest thing you feel like in between? We're at about 350K year to date. We're in April. We got to be mindful that in the land business, any contracts we get after like September probably aren't going to hit the revenue board. Is that,
yeah,
would you agree with that? Yeah. So I like late August, September, you might squeeze one in that you get in October that ends up being like a really fast deal, but you don't want to bank on it. So you have until about September to do the rest of those, to get the rest of those in your pipeline if you want to hit that number this year.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel like's in your way between now and then? Obviously time. There's a time piece to it. Right?
Yeah. I keep looking at my board. I think just finding the right buy. Well, part of it, we've got some really good stuff on the books. So part of it, our numbers could be really good, and get us there if we can get some of these sold. So getting them sold, getting properties sold, and then probably just more leads, finding more leads that we can work with.
If you sold everything in your pipeline, how close do you think you'd be to your number?
Oh, wait, say that again?
If you sold everything in your pipeline at the price you're expecting to, how close would you be to your number?
we probably have another 450 on the board.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you're I mean that only leaves 150 to go on top of that to get to $1 million.
I want to just be like an annoying devil's advocate for about half a second. Any pipeline I have on the board, I always subtract about 20 to 25%.
Oh yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Nowadays, yes.
You're all nodding your head.
Right.
We all know the reality.
Oh yeah.
You
No,
for
for sure.
You're gonna get like 360, right? And that's okay, right?
Yeah.
We're happy about that, but I think I did my
Well, let's do that. Let's subtract 20 or 30%. Subtract 20% from 450, you're down to 360. You know?
No, but you're subtracting dollar amount. It could be the deal. So it shouldn't be the dollar amount, it should be the deal. Because they have blowouts, right? It's so
For
or
sure.
it doesn't sell or it doesn't sell. So it's not a dollar amount. It's actually more of a deal count. So it could be, you know, I hate to say this, but isn't it always the best deal? I mean, that's what I want to point out, that the idea of that is it's never a dollar amount, it's the deals.
So it
I got a
sounds
question.
like, Dan, you're a little more nervy about the disposition side of your like growing pipeline than getting another 15 in on top of it. Or you want to see some of those, you want to see that reducing down a bit, do you, in the next month or so?
Well, yeah. I mean, for sure, I'd like to see these reducing down.
Is it going at the
possible.
pace you're happy with, or are you thinking you need to make some changes or additions to your dispo game to accelerate it?
I think we're doing pretty good in our dispo game. I think we could probably do more. I mean, that's what we're kind of working on right now. That's kind of a key focus in our business is dispo, because we've never had, we've never had this many properties. So, we're working with good realtors. We're doing a lot of marketing to builders, developers, realtors. So we do emails, calls, texts to like local realtors to make sure they know the property's out there. So we've been really upping our game on that, because we've not
You got
had
your
to
drone
really do that
photos
before.
and all that good stuff?
Say that again?
You got your good quality drone photos of everything?
Yep. Yep. We do. We do good drone photos. We do. We use good realtors typically. Sometimes on the smaller properties, we'll use some like a flat fee services, but those are getting a little harder to really work with these days.
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know what I found? It's a funny kind of quick tip. I mean, you might have a piece of land and you might have an avatar in mind as to what type of person is going to buy it. And you have your boilerplate sales descriptions that you use. Sometimes it's good plugging those into ChatGPT, and you can like tailor this a little bit for a couple in their 60s that are looking to, buy build a ranch or whatever it might be. Just get them like to make that little tweak so that it hits your avatar, more directly than otherwise would be the case.
No, that is awesome advice, Colin. And I just started doing that last week, really going through each of our listings and being like, who am I targeting? Who is the avatar? Who's going to buy this? And how do I create compelling language that makes them excited and feel something when they read those first like 3 sentences? I mean, first you gotta
and
have
obviously your
pictures.
local realtors can give you good direction on who the avatar is as well, that you might not know because it's in some area you're not familiar with.
Yep.
Dan,
No, that's awesome.
How are you managing your realtors right now? Like, you get them a listing. What's your communication cadence looking like after that handoff?
So we like to have communication like every couple of days from them to find out what, like, are we having any showings? Is anyone calling? Is there anything? I mean, it depends on the property too. I mean, sometimes maybe not every other day, but definitely a couple times a week, we're trying to find the realtors that actually are really responsive, because we've had some that have not done a great job. So we've found a couple now, 3 or 4 in our area, just because we're kind of sticking in one state, that are really good to work with, and their communication is good. And so we just are trying to find out, like, what do we need to do? Like, why if no one's looking at this, why not? Like, are we priced right?
What are they saying?
Huh?
What are they saying?
Well, I mean, it just depends on the property. So if things aren't selling, a couple of these aren't great properties. They've got a lot of topography. We didn't know when we got it that how steep they were, things like that. So a couple of these just are not great properties, but and about 6 of them we just put on, 7 of them we just put on the market like a week and a half to 2 weeks ago.
I have a question. Are you closing on all your properties?
Meaning, like,
Like,
am
are
I
you
buying
double?
them?
Yeah, or are you double
No,
closing?
that is not our model. We double
Okay.
close on everything
So
right
I guess
now.
a couple thoughts on what you just said. Specifically, what you just said, dump those properties.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is I don't like, why would you waste energy in meetings and you have limited resources, meaning limited amount of people, and you're probably going to burn out a really good realtor by calling them every couple of days for him to tell you, him or her tell you that they can't sell it because you got a crappy property, right? So what I mean is you're better off letting that one go in. It's the one resource you cannot make up again is energy, right? So,
Sure.
or time. So
Yeah,
get
sure.
rid of it, go on to the next deal. And so, and I'm going to say this in connecting back to what you said originally. You mentioned that you don't want to bring in another acquisition or a caller. I mean, I'll call him a caller. Well, why would you want to keep money for September, October, November to buy properties around that time? I mean, why don't you front load it? Why don't you spend more money right now and then pause it in July and then start up again in November, December, January, and front load whatever you were going to give those off months to now, and try to get properties that you can sell now, especially if you have a double close model. Like you should be like, I know it's going to sound weird, but you ever seen those Halloween stores?
Mhm.
So they have the best business model in the world because they come in. If you know anything about retail, it's basically a loss leader the entire year, and they make all their money in the winter. And the
Mhm.
Halloween store is the same thing. They just said, screw it, we're not going to have a store open. We're going to come in 2 weeks before. They want to close down the very next day, and they front load all their money and rent, and they pay for premium, premium rent. They pay 4 months of rent for just using it a month to sell everything they have, during Halloween. And so that's where I say is like, there's no activity in the wintertime that we do that I feel is productive. So for maybe we can get some acquisitions, but my
Mhm.
point here is if you're double closing, which is your business model, you want to have properties when people are ready to buy. Don't have properties when they're not going to buy because you're double closing them.
Mhm.
No, I
Mhm.
Right?
think that's
Mhm.
I think that's a great point, Alex. And I
Mhm.
think the Halloween store is a really interesting example of that. Well, Diane, I would like to hear from you. You know, we're learning about your business a little bit, maybe talked a little bit on a couple of things you wanted to work on. How can we help you? What are you struggling with most at this point that we could mastermind on with you?
I think what we're struggling at most right now is like we're working on systems and we're working on processes, but I think because it's just me and Leah and then a couple of VAs, we haven't quite, and we just hired them like maybe 2 months ago. We still haven't quite gotten the system down. So, like, for example, the other day, a contract came in through DocuSign, which I knew it was coming in. But then I went out of town for 4 days and I thought Leah was going to take a look at it. And then Leah missed it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, well, where's the backer contract? And I'm like, oh, well, it's in DocuSign. And, Leah, have you done anything with it? She's like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I thought we were waiting for it to come in. So, like, we lost a whole week because I went out of town. We didn't. There was like a gap, but like things like that, I feel like important. I mean, we're pretty good, but like I feel like is like we need some kind of like I've heard about like Notion might be good to look at, or just like something that helps us stay more on track, because we've got like Google Docs that we put everything in, or Google Sheets where we lay everything out and all our contracts and the dates and the earnest money deposit and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, like kind of automating the system so that we know like, okay, who's like, if this comes in then this happens. How do we know? What's the system of how often do we check DocuSign to see if contract came in? I mean, we should know that contract came in that day, but we didn't.
Do you have Zapier?
Do what?
Do you have Zapier?
No.
Okay.
I think actually
Well,
better than Zapier right now, Alex, is Make. Make does a
yeah,
lot more integrations with
it's just
AI and
harder.
stuff like that.
Yeah. Very
It is.
good. Yeah, it's just a little bit. So I got. Can I take a second here to point something out before we solve that? Because we could solve the problem, but we're also just treating a symptom.
Yeah.
If you feel you're growing to the point where you're missing contracts, that's the number one. Like if you would have lost that deal and it cost you money, that's when you know you need to hire.
Right.
So automation does not mean everything is automated. It just means you don't do it. Because we have this, especially today with AI, we think the automation is 100%. There is 20% that we still need to do. So somebody
Sure.
still needs to do, right? Unless you trust the machine enough to sign for you and send it off and da-da-da. But why I'm saying this is because you still need someone to help you see that. And what you need to hire for, that it's a lot more time than we have available. But my thoughts are, even though because bottom line is, we could tell you about Make, we could take shit. DocuSign should send you an email. So if you're not checking your emails, there's nothing that you could do to fix that, right? I mean, other than check your emails. So my point is, Zapier will give you a text, hey, you got a contract signed back in or whatever. So there's all that. But if you're not checking it, if someone's not checking it, I should say, then you can't fix that. And there's not an automation that'll fix that.
Yeah.
Can you refresh us, Diane, on who's on your current staff again? So it's yourself, your partner, Leah, and then you said a couple of VAs. What's their role?
We've got
what are they doing?
2 part-time VAs. One is more like data entry, just pulling everything from Land Caller, all the information, and get it into Pebble for us. Helping with, images, checking land ID, all that kind of stuff for us. And then the other one has really been helping Leah with getting our dispo more organized. But now I'm going to start working with her on helping with kind of the acquisition side and the first part of dispo.
You have $1 million business part-time. And I'm not saying, because that's fantastic, right? But I think you're at the point where I would, instead of creating systems, which you're going to need them. You're absolutely going to need them. But I think what you need to look at first is we need help because you going on vacation for 4 days and not checking your email, to me, is like you're burnt out.
Well,
or you weren't accessible, or you were somewhere, in a situation where you couldn't respond. That's going to happen to you over and over and over.
Sure.
And I'll just share quickly. My wife has a disease that we are consistently in the hospital. And so instead of me trying to make sure I check my email all the time, I'd rather pay someone to check my email all the time. Right. And then I can chop ahead if they don't do their one job. Right. So, and obviously she does a lot more for me. But my point is, what you may not realize is you bringing someone on is not only going to solve your immediate need, but they're going to have a capacity to take on more for you. And you will, I'm speaking about a higher level hire, right? I'm not talking about a $5 VA. And the price is not even the issue, it's the capacity, right?
Okay.
So you bring someone on that's like a paralegal. I mean, and I don't know what your criteria is, but as you get higher in how much you make, I mean, some of my VAs make, more than I did when I was younger here in the United States, and I had a family to feed. So they're well, but they also, I have CPAs, I have a paralegal that works for me. I mean, and stateside, same thing. I mean, you want to hire someone, but to not get too off track is you have to not let that happen to you. However, 100%. You can fix that, right? So, and to be clear, life will happen to you. So if you're saying, oh, I was it's a one situation. No, those one situations happen just about every other month.
Sure.
And like in Houston, they say we have a 500-year flood. Shit, it floods every 10 years. Whoever did the math on that, didn't do it right.
So Diane, what I think Alex brings up a great point. What have you been thinking about? I'm curious to know what's going on in your mind of, have you been thinking of hiring somebody? Is this kind of a new thought? Like what's been the next move on your chessboard, if you will? to
Yeah,
get to
I
the
mean,
next level.
yes, for sure. I mean, I think we need someone to help. It's kind of like we took little baby steps, right? We had the data entry person helping us, and then we had the VA helping Leah with, getting the dispo stuff a little more organized. But we need someone between like me and that, I think, to kind of help.
Transaction coordinator.
Yeah.
Have you got your stuff
combo-
documented,
Oh.
Diane? Like, if you got a process document where you say this is marketing, dispo, acquisitions, admin, have you got that laid out? And
We do. I'm still working on that though. I mean, we've
Okay.
got it. It's okay. I've been working on that I've been working on them all week this week. I'm trying to get that more organized so that we can actually,
and the contracts are going to your email address? Like, are you the only one that can see when a contract comes
Oh
in?
no, no.
Okay.
It's Leah and I can both see it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, we have daily huddles, and obviously the stuff we go through is what contracts are we waiting on, what contracts are we sending. That's the basic stuff you talk about at the beginning of every day. I mean,
Yep.
what offers did we send out? What offers are we waiting for? What leads came in, who's processing them. So just so that we're not dropping the ball, you just literally go through it every morning at 9:30, to make sure that it's being caught.
So I don't know what your natural personality type is here, but just mapping everybody else on this call, I think Alex and I are wired a little bit more similarly, and Dave and Colin are wired a little bit more similarly. And what I mean by that is I'm good enough and have been friends long enough with Dave and Colin to know both of those guys are naturally just so extremely organized. Like their file structures and naming structures of documents, and we just saw Dave's pretty little SOP thing in Basecamp. Like, Dave, I'm not gonna lie to you, I'll probably never have that in my business.
That was really nice.
Yeah, it was phenomenal, man. And like, kudos to you. And I love that works for you. And I'm not saying it wouldn't work for me. I'm just saying I know my own brain. Okay, Alex,
That's a powerful thing right there, man. That's powerful. Say it again for people.
Yeah, I've got a full-time executive assistant who's on salary, and she is my second brain. Okay, because I naturally will let things slip through the cracks. And so I really need someone that will not let me let things slip through the cracks. Like, in a parallel universe where Dave and Colin are not entrepreneurial geared, I need somebody with that personality type to be everywhere in my life. The only area Kaylee's not in my life is my text messages, and I almost hooked up her MacBook when I bought her a new MacBook to my iMessage, just because I kind of wish she was in some of them sometimes. But I was like, there's some personal stuff in there, probably not for the best. But I mean,
And make sure they have the right personality type for the job you're hiring for as well.
Definitely.
For sure.
And that's super important.
For sure.
They have that.
And that's a whole second piece. Now, I'm not telling you should do this, Diane, but I think food for thought. If you are missing stuff, Alex is totally right. Where there comes a point in your business where you're growing so fast, two things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to miss out on potential revenue. Number two, sometimes you might actually handicap yourself from taking on more work because subconsciously you're like, I don't know how I'd handle that much.
Can't take it.
Exactly. And the amount of times I've like had to wrestle with that, and I'm like, shoot, I need to like hire another person or do these things or set up new systems or leverage AI. We need to become more efficient or delegate somewhere. I don't know where that needs to be, but we need to take stuff off Ajay's plate so he can do more revenue generating activities, right? And that's like, it sounds really nice, right? What it actually means is like, you need to have a safety net for things to fall into. And I really think good people is such a good catch-all. Like, when I started working with Kaylee, I didn't have great systems, but she was just such a good staff member that she created them, right? Now you need a baseline, obviously, create a baseline of systems and cadence and expectations and culture and core values. And we can talk about all those things for hours here, right?
Yeah.
I think the point being, and Alex, you did a really good job hitting on this, is just like having good people on your team to make sure stuff doesn't slip through the cracks or else they're on the chopping block is just like a really good safeguard for whatever lifestyle we want to live or our natural personality types.
Well, and the other question is, I guess we don't have time in this call to do this, but this is one of the, so here goes a shameless plug. That's why you go to the event and you get an hour of people, but you also get to know people during dinners, during lunches, and the breakouts. Because my first question to you is, do you really want a big business? Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a really good paying job. And just know that. And what I mean by a good paying job, like that's one thing I had to settle in at one point in my life when I was like, man, I can't grow right now. I need to be here for my family or blah, 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 or just I don't have the money. There's a lot of times when the biggest, hardest thing for entrepreneurs to do is say no, right? So if you don't want to do that, if you don't want to hire, if you don't want to, I mean, it's kind of the advice I gave Colin is like, dude, just your job is to make sure you don't mess this up. Like you have a great business. So if you're like, hey, we're good. I get to take, 5, 6 vacations a year. And I don't have to manage people. I've got just enough. And I'm okay with losing a couple deals a month or a deal a year. Like it's okay. There's spillage. By the way, when you hire people, you lose deals because they don't know what to do. So you'll have that problem too. So don't, right? And so what I'm saying is like, you never, it's, Ajay said it earlier, it says you always have to be in training. The moment you hire people, you always have to be managing.
It's true.
Yeah.
And that is a job. So pick the job you like. You want to just close deals or you want to manage people?
Here's one other just kind of larger thought, kind of bottom of the structure of the land, if I will, land business for many people. You have you at the top, right? And then over time, you might have middle managers and then you have people beneath them. So if I'm to say those roles, you have kind of a general admin person that does a lot of different kinds of things. Like I think your existing people, hey, they're in Pebble, they're helping out with Dispo a little bit, but they're not like really, really specialized. They're generalists, which is fine. That's perfect of what you need at that stage as you're getting going. But then you start having lead managers and acquisition managers and transaction coordinators and then dispo people, right? And there's different layers underneath each of those things particularly too. And so as you think about where do you need on that line? Is it another generalist? Is it a lead manager? Is it a acquisition manager? Is it a transaction coordinator? Is it a salesperson or sales type roles, that might help you? So I guess I'm curious to hear from you, Diane, like those roles, do you know all of those roles? And if so, like which one do you think you need to hire next?
I do know those roles pretty well. I mean, well enough to understand what you're asking me. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to be a huge company, Alex, like just with, to come back to
I don't
what
want
you
my
had
company.
said. Yeah.
I don't want the company.
I don't want a whole lot of employees. I owned a catering company for 10 years and I don't need to do that again. So less is best for me, but I do want to grow a strong business and a solid business that does well and is run well, and probably someone like I feel like there needs to be someone like in between me and Leah, maybe managing from point A to point B to point C and just kind of overseeing each contract. Maybe that would be where we need. I mean, I want to bring in more revenue, so I would like to bring in someone to do some more calls, but maybe that needs to come hand in hand, because more calls means more leads, means more contracts, means more stuff that potentially falls through the cracks.
What do you think about a transaction coordinator? Is that
Amen to that.
the kind of role?
We've talked about that a lot, and we looked at outsourcing that. We looked at bringing someone in. I mean, we haven't done a whole lot of research on it. We just looked at a couple different options, but yeah, I mean, I think that might be a good place to start.
Can I give some general advice for actually everyone on the call?
Alex, actually,
100%.
we haven't heard much from Colin, but let's get back to you for sure. So Colin, hearing what you've heard from her, we haven't heard much from you this part of it. I'd love to hear from what's going on in your mind as you hear her talking about kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I see some similarities that I know you missed the beginning of the call, but like I've got a small business like yours, and I've intentionally not grown it and hired loads of people because I like having it at a certain size, and I prefer to do deals than to manage a team of 10 people. That to me is more interesting. And then I just try and do bigger deals. I don't want to do lots of small deals and do 10 small deals a month. I want to do 3 bigger deals a month. And it sounds like you're maybe not too far away from that. So I mean, I wouldn't rush to hiring people necessarily. I mean, I think it might be good to get a third party view of your business for someone to come in and do like a little bit of a deep dive with you to see, well, what are you doing every day? What are you doing every day? What are you doing every day? And kind of identify some gaps that you might not see because you're in the middle of the forest kind of thing, you know,
Sure.
that someone might see, well, it seems to be that you need something over here. You know, just like a set of eyes to kind of spend. Like if somebody sat down with you and your partner for 2 or 3 hours, it would probably become pretty clear where the gaps in your business are, where you can kind of, you know, plug those gaps and increase your revenue without giving yourself, you know, because the last thing you want to do is hire three people to solve a problem that you don't have. You know, you have to be very careful that you're putting the right
For
person
sure.
on the right seat, because you might, because I've been like, you might be doing well, you might have a good bit of money in the bank. You said, yeah, we can just hire this person for 1,000 a month, this person for 2,000 a month, this person for 3,000 a month. But it's, you're creating a ton of work for yourself because it's a huge amount of effort and it can get very distracting. So just be careful about that. Just really, and the more, yeah, it's kind of counterintuitive, but if you can just take, you know, 45 minutes every morning to just really think about your business and where the gaps are, rather than just kind of diving into answering the emails and saving the documents in your Google Drive, just like moving things around in a circle. If you can just have some quiet time with a notebook or something and just write down what's happening in the business, where are the gaps, you'd be amazed at what can occur to you, like you might do on a long haul flight, where you always get some really interesting insights that you're like very glad the trip was almost worth it because of this insight I'm giving myself on the flight home. You know, if you
Very
could
good
just kind of
advice.
find that time yourself and just like sit down on your, you know, away from a computer even, and just kind of think about things, you'd be amazed at what your subconscious will tell you, what you need to do, and it might become super clear that yeah, that's obvious. This is what I need to do now, and after I've done this, this is what I need to do after that. So I think you can solve these problems yourself, or you and your business partner Leah, just with quiet time away from the hustle and bustle.
Okay, I love that.
Very good advice.
Okay.
Well, why don't we hear from Alex? Alex had a thought he wanted to share. Then Ajay, I think we probably want to wrap wrap
Yeah,
this up.
I'll just leave everyone with this thought. So one thing I took from this call, which I appreciate again being here, because I always, it's funny, but you know, the nuggets, right? It's always the one or two nuggets that you get
Totally.
and implementing them. So what I heard, and funny enough, is solving someone else's problem that I realized a solution for one of mine, which is I hate marketing. When I rephrase that, I love marketing and I love it so much I can't think anyone else can do it. And what I got from this call was everybody else is marketing. Well, I shouldn't say everybody else, but the marketing is happening. So to me, I know it's going to sound bad, but the letters are just, you know, a spatter, just shoot and see. And at the same token, you know, with the calling, I was like, huh, that's not a bad idea. And so my point is if I'm going to hire somebody to call, I'm going to hire someone like the lead callers, because they train their people to do that. If I'm going to mail, I'm going to go hire, you know, and I don't want to plug names here, but basically someone that their whole job is to go perfect being a mailer. If I'm going to hire a salesperson, I'm going to go hire a top end salesperson, or I'm going to call Ajay and say, hey man, you're a trainer. You got anybody that loves sales but sucks at running the business and would prefer to just, and he might text somebody that already has that. And so the resources you have available, hire the best, because what you're not realizing, and you know, the most amount of money I ever spent was on hiring people, and the second most amount of money was in firing people. And so, like, dude, it's ridiculous how much money and you spend on this. And it's also, you know, to Dave's point is now, I'm sorry, to Colin's point, which is great. It's like now you got to manage them. Now you got to spend a lot of time and energy on doing what they need, and you can't get them mad at them for them needing that. Right? So I'd rather say, so the transaction coordinator, which Dave pointed out, I think that's a fantastic advice. I think, like, man, that's it. To me, I if I was on the hot seat, I'd be like, I'm hiring one tomorrow. And the reason why is you don't know what you don't know, so hire one and fire quickly, right? Like, because they're supposed to tell you. You got to think of it this way: it's their job to keep you as a client, right? Just like you satisfy the needs of your. I heard you, you know, basically really well when you're on a call with a client or a call with a seller. You do a fantastic job. Their job is to be fantastic transaction coordinators. And so if you have that problem, that's how I would solve it.
Totally.
So when you, Alex, like, where would you recommend finding that transaction coordinator?
So it's interesting because sometimes, especially in the land business, there's a lot of stuff that the land business is still lacking. So, but it's very common elsewhere. So realtors, if you have realtors, ask the realtors, they all have a transaction coordinator. Like Keller Williams has a company of transaction coordinators. And I think they charge like $300. I have one in-house, but I've always had one. And looking back, if I had to start all over again, I sure as hell wouldn't hire it because the training, man, we hired and fired like 10 people to get to the point where I'm at today.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
horrible.
That's so good.
And
Alex.
here's the problem, right? Let me add another thing. As soon as you figure out, so I love Ajay's point because I'm not a systems guy. I don't like, Colin's point is fantastic because I'm starting to do that more and more. And I love the analogy of the drive or airplane flight because you get to sit and think. If I don't have one of those situations, I never get to do it. And I'm like, man, that's another great advice. I'm going to start doing that because even if I'm at the gym, I've got an ear plug in or whatever. And so my point is that a lot of times we forget, and I think Colin has that figured out because he spends a lot of time on it. And I'm like, man, you just need to not mess this up because I grew my company so big that I don't want it. Like I rather, and it's hard to get rid of people because now you're family, right? And you've spent all this time and energy on training them, and so and especially if you're a leader, you're getting their buy-in. Well, imagine if you in the very next month or a year from now, you're like, hey man, I gotta let y'all go because I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. It kind of sucks, and I mean, it is what it is, right? If you have to do, you have to do it. But to me, it's like, man, I'd rather make big checks or fast checks. That's another one, right? So fast checks or big checks, either one's okay. But keep it to a simplicity. And that's why I pivot. I always pivot to whatever the easiest transactions are.
So this is
So anyway,
great. Alex, I appreciate that. And I do want to be respectful of everybody's time because I know we're over here. So Diane, do you feel like this was valuable for you?
Awesome.
Good.
I could go on for another hour.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, seriously, and this ended up being a phenomenal group, I feel like, for us to all dive into stuff. I think everybody's brought some really good stuff to the table here today. Diane, thanks so much for popping on too. I know we had a little mix up in the calendar, but Colin, appreciate you being our first test subject, and Alex, appreciate you dropping bombs, my friend. Dave, I'm going to bring it back to you here for a second as we close out. So for those that don't know, I mean, this format that we're doing on Zoom is super special because people just get to be vulnerable and we just dive into the real issues in your business. And this is so lacking with like other qualified investors. We handpicked the people in this room to make sure we were giving out good advice to people that have hired and fired, have made multi six figures, if not seven, have done the thing, lost money, made money, lost employees, like had all types of situations happen. And we all know running real estate business, you can't plan for it all. It's just the reality of it, right? If you want an experience like this in person, Dave is so awesome because he basically just takes the brunt of planning in this entire event called the Land Unconference every single year. And guys, if you've never planned an event, I've got to say, you might think we're making all this money throwing these events. Events are not very profitable, right?
No.
They can be if you've got like a back-end coaching offer to sell, which Dave doesn't. Okay. So basically what we do when we throw these events is I say, hey, I'm going to take the risk of about $50,000 so that people can outsource planning to have a good event for the day. That's basically what it is. Okay. So we pay for this ticket so Dave can make a little bit of money, right? And it looks like you're going to break even for a long time until about 3 weeks before the event when a bunch of people sign up, right? And Dave puts together rooms so that we can do this. And I know I've gotten tons of messages on WhatsApp, on my Facebook Messenger, and on my text message at how much people like this format as we've been doing this. And we've had a rolling attendance of somewhere between 10 and 35 the entire time of 2 hours, which is really cool. We probably already had a couple hundred people cycle through and tell me they love the format of this because it's so special to dive into problems, right? And so I'll finish out just by saying, come to the Unconference. If you want to be sitting in a room with other people at your caliber that are just going to dive into your business. You're going to have tons of takeaways as we dive into other people's. I know people that have pinged me about how, listening to Colin's stuff, I need to do a price drop, right? Watching Diane's stuff, I need to hire a transaction coordinator, right? I personally have takeaways as I'm listening to this, how I need to up level as a leader, right? And so I'm saying all this to say, The Unconference is awesome. It is August 7th and 8th in Minneapolis. We dropped a link in the Facebook chat, and it is just an awesome 2 days. Dave, what else do you want to say about the event as we close out here, man?
I want to say too that I haven't sent this publicly yet, but I'm seriously thinking I may not do this format of the Unconference again for probably another 2 years.
Okay.
So I am a little burned out, to be honest, with everybody. And so if you want to come to this event, which is unique, I'll be doing some smaller stuff next year, but I am not going to be doing the large event next year. It's taken a lot out of me and a lot of stress this year that I really don't honestly need. So I would love for you to come because it's going to be a long time before I hold a very similar event like this again. So
it's a lot of work. I love it.
Come.
We got the link in the comments here. Appreciate everybody for coming in. Diane, Alex, Colin, Dave, thank you guys for being here as we've been able to talk about this. Anybody have any closing remarks or last words as we close out? And they got to be quick and short.
This format. This format normally costs in the tens of thousands of dollars to get this exact same style. And I know you're part of CG, I'm part of different events. So my point is, man, if you can get this for whatever, $500, $600 a ticket, dude, that's like, take advantage of it. Seriously, it's like having your own board, right?
Totally. And it's about that per day because the Unconference is premium, and that's okay. It is an awesome event. To your point, Alex, tons of value. People pay a lot of money.
Yeah, you got to do it. This is, if you're serious about it. If not, it's okay.
Totally. But hey, if you're trying to level up, get in the room with investors.
Yeah.
The same. So agreed. All right, everybody. Dave,
let me add too, just like the experiences you get, the relationships you get from an event like this. I wouldn't have my good buddy Ajay without him having come to this event 3 years ago.
Several of my best friends have come out of this stuff. I mean, Josiah Ronco and Drew Haney and Callan Faulkner and Dave Denniston and people that I love dearly and still talk to on a weekly basis came from the Unconference.
And we're gonna have some memorable stuff. So, come make memories. Play laser tag on Saturday night. It's gonna be awesome. Gonna take RJ down. It'll be great.
Dave is scary good. You know who's really good at laser tag is Seth Williams. That guy,
yes,
dangerously good. But all right, guys, well, hey, this is awesome. Check out the Unconference. I hope to see you guys there August 7th and 8th in Minneapolis. And any questions you've got, drop them in the chat. I'll try to watch them here for the next couple of days. But thanks everybody for being here. I know this was a long one, but man, this was awesome. Thanks everybody.